Isn't it kind of weird that if you look at like the Chinese calendar, like Chinese New Year and all that shit, that it's got a bunch of animals that exist and then just a dragon? Does that strike you as odd? Or you think that's just culturally significant? Dragons are part of the culture.
I think it's culturally significant.
Hey, to each his own, where I see.
No, they must think the way I think, or my God will smite them. I am wrong.
But
come at me, bro.
All the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, so last week, folks, welcome back, first of all, to the Freaky Deaky. I don't even think I did any of that in the first episode. There was so much information. I was like, follow us on social media. Here we go. We're getting into it. And I'm kind of doing the same thing this week. But welcome back, folks. We hope you enjoyed last week. By now, we'll know if you enjoyed it or hated it completely, strictly by numbers alone. And that's fine.
If you're hearing this episode, we didn't get scared. We decided to still publish it based on your hate from last week.
That's true. We did it. We figured it out. Last week, we covered what I consider to be significant evidence, Christian.
What did I think of it?
Was bullshit, I believe.
Yes.
That humans coexisted with dinosaurs. In today's episode, we're going to take it a step further and see if there's any correlation we found to help support this theory by taking a look at the variety of myths and stories of dragons rooted deep within the folklore of cultures all over the world. Is it possible these seemingly fantastical stories steeped in heroism, adventure, and impossible odds hold more than previously believed?
No.
Hey, you did it.
Okay.
You said it. Actually, in parentheses, I said Christian says something dumb here probably. But hey, that was close. That was close. It's a no. It's a no for me.
If I tell you no, it's always dumb. I have to tell you yes all the time.
Well,
also, Scott is always right.
You've kind of done this to yourself, man. No, just kidding. I have a very small ego and I hate myself. So people can have different opinions than me. It's all fine and dandy. But for the sake of comedy, yes, Christian, the truth and authenticity of the stories you're going to hear in this week's episode have long been debated. It's not my job to convince you one way or another. I'm simply here to relay information on the topic at hand. At the end of the day, that choice is yours and yours alone. However, for the sake of entertainment, open your damn mind a little, you closed-minded, stubborn human being. Good grief. Let's begin. Well, actually, no, we'll see you on the inside.
The views on this episode are the opinions of Scott and not necessarily the opinions
disclaimer thrown there. You are now entering the realm of the Freaky Deaky. An unsuspecting stop at the crossroads of fantasy and reality, where the frayed edges of make-believe seep into this cookie-cutter white picket world you've been led to believe is far from extraordinary. What you're about to hear are true stories.
Alleged true stories.
Christian, just... okay? Tales of the strange and inexplicable thought only to exist in film and folklore. Although difficult to accept, we do not know everything about this reality. About time or space, what lies beneath the ocean's depths. And try though we might, the unchanging truth remains. There are some things we legitimately cannot explain logically. Folks, we're going to get right into it because my son has woken up and I'm sure my mother is tired. So I'm going to get into this stuff. If you are not already, subscribe on YouTube at Freaky Deaky Pod. Support the channel, buy some merch. freakydeaky.com. We have the single greatest designs that you have ever seen on paranormal merch.
On this, I will agree.
Yeah, this is the one thing that Christian and I agree on. Isn't that fun? And also follow us on social media at Freaky Deaky Pod as well. Comment your thoughts on these last two episodes here. When you're done with this one, rate it 5 stars. You know the drill. A lot of information to cover once again this week, so I'm going to get into it. You know what's funny is I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are like, finally, they're not talking for 10 fucking minutes. And they're probably celebrating these episodes, even if they hate them. That's fine. You do that. Well, let's go with dragons across cultures of the world. While looking into this episode, I came across a pretty interesting website that put together a nifty little chart with 3 columns, pretty much breaking down the names, locations, and descriptions of dragons around the world. So I'm going to read some of these off to get things started, and then we'll dive into an excerpt from the article itself. About to shoot down every one of these planes, man. I'm tired of them.
You did not mean that, government.
I did mean that, government.
No, we do not have the means. Come at me, bro. We do not have the means. We are not into that.
You ever heard of David and Goliath? All I need is a stone, Christian. And impeccable aim.
And a sling. Good luck. You'd probably
just throw it.
Yo, shoot your eye out.
There you go. References starting early. Anyway, I'm going to get most of these wrong. Bear with me, folks. There's one from Inuit legend called the Azawugum.
Oh my gosh, you definitely...
Is that
you're going to start off...
with the Inuit? Yeah.
Where we've already been roasted for saying Kushtaka. I'm going to say it wrong forever. because that was so ridiculous.
And I'm going to say Oziwagum. Oziwagum.
I've actually heard of this one, so.
The description of it is giant reptile. The Dakota Sioux have one called Baksan, which means terrible water monster. Hebrew, behemoth, means giant swamp reptile.
Wait, did you just throw behemoth in there?
Yeah, it's Hebrew.
And it's what?
Giant swamp reptile.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So a crocodile.
Or a super croc, as we touched on last episode.
They could be, I've seen a 30-foot croc before. It's pretty scary. Or was it was probably an alligator, but it was huge.
It was probably in your mind.
Especially because I was a kid. No, I went to, we've talked about this on the show.
Yeah, but you can't trust your memories, Christian, so sorry. And
I'm
that's something you
saying
talk on every week. Okay.
They specifically said 30-foot.
But how can you remember that if we can't trust our memories?
Because I'm a freaking nerd. I remember things like that.
Sure.
And it was fascinating. I was like 10.
Wow. Sounds fascinating. And you've remembered it for the last 400 years, Christian, you old vampire, you.
No, I'm a biblical being if I've been alive for 400 years.
Okay. You're not even close to a biblical being, first of all. Secondly, this next one, Drakon or Drakar Nor.
Oh, wait.
It's wrong. Greek. It's in Greece. It's the word is just not dragon. No, surprisingly, Game of Thrones didn't make a reference in this episode.
It just did.
No special appearances from Game of Thrones.
I just made a special appearance of it.
I don't know why you keep saying that. It didn't exist, Christian. And this is proof that you can't trust your memories, you know? Grendel means swamp monster. That's from Denmark. Wales has Nucker, swamp dragon. China, long. I'm maybe saying that wrong, but that just means dragon. I'm remembering a story that I'm pretty sure I left out of the episode about a Chinese dragon, and it's called Long Wang. So for obvious reasons, respectfully, I left it out.
What about Puff?
The magic dragon? Yeah, he was not in this episode either. Egyptian hieroglyphs have what's described as a giant reptile, but there's no way I can pronounce this. It's P''IHMW.
I'd have to see it, and I probably still could.
Moi. I don't know. I sound very disrespectful. The Iroquois have Rokwaho, which means giant reptile. In Poland, Smok, or smoke maybe, means dragon. The Cherokee have Uktana, which means horned water monster. And in Germany, you know what that one is, right? Spelled like worm, but it's Wurm. Yeah, classic Germans, which means dragon. And so now we're going to get into this article from Brian Thomas over at ICR. Anyway, the sheer number of names given to dragons or dinosaurs worldwide builds a strong argument.
I didn't hear anything about dragons in there. I heard like river fish.
Well, you weren't listening to
snakes.
4 of them, which the description was actually dragon.
Okay, that's fair. I do remember, but most of them were just like, this thing lives
giant
in our
reptile, horned water monster, swamp monster.
This is something big that lives in our lake or river.
Yes, of course.
Is what I heard.
Yes, of course. Different phrasing. I can see why you'd be skeptical. So the sheer number of names given to dragons or dinosaurs worldwide builds a strong argument that dragon legends reflect encounters with real creatures. Most languages, either in written or spoken form, have their own unique terms. The word dragon here doesn't necessarily refer to popular images of a bulky, fire-breathing reptile that somehow flies with tiny wings. Rather, it can mean one of the many kinds of dinosaurs or even flying reptiles. Some languages still use words like those shown on the table that I just referenced. Wikipedia lists many more dragon names, at least some of which probably refer to actual giant reptiles, including dinosaurs.
I don't understand because you can't really put dragons and dinosaurs together because dinosaurs are from 65 million years ago. Dragons are from contemporary history or myths, which is, if we want to be generous, humans or their descent or their relatives are 300,000 to 500,000 years old.
Just making this shit up.
No.
Just pulling it right out of your ass.
No, that's actual fact.
much like the scientists
I couldn't remember the exact year, so we're going to go 300,000 to 500,000 years ago, which means basically almost 65 million year gap between humans and dinosaurs. So dragons.
So should I just stop the episode here?
I mean,
you figured it out.
Dragons are fun, so let's continue it. Okay. I just don't think they're dinosaurs.
For the sake of having fun on this podcast, let's continue. And yeah, man, like I said, decide for yourselves. I'm not here to shift
more
you
dog
either way.
Whistles from last week.
I'm not shifting you either way, friends. You make your own decisions. You big boys and girls out there, and whatever else you want to identify as, that's fine.
I mean, it's like people don't understand. You make up your own mind, make your own decisions.
Yeah, what am I, your Sherpa up this mountain?
We have thousands of years in and a religious book that tells you what happens when you let humans make their own decisions.
That's very true. And it's one that we should all heed the warnings of.
Therefore, we have no free will. Another episode. Keep going. Go.
I mean, you keep saying shit like that. It's going to be another episode. And then the people that suffer, for the record, our audience. Okay. So if you want
I'm trying to shut up.
If you want less of this, then that's, you just keep that to yourself. Anyway, ancient historians described dragons as real living creatures, listing them right alongside the descriptions of other creatures familiar to today's reader. And I will say this, there's a lot of actual legitimate folklore stories in this episode that anyone that hears will be like, well, that's made up. So again, I'm just giving information. You make your own mind up. For example, in his book Natural History, written in approximately 78 AD, Pliny the Elder wrote that it is India which produces the largest elephants, as well as the dragon. And the dragon is itself of such enormous size as to envelop the elephants with its folds.
That's a big-ass snake.
Speaking of, very quick tangent, have you seen that giant, like that rock or mountain or whatever that people, there's a video that's been going around for years.
Oh, what that they say is a dead snake?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Isn't that kind of freaky looking? I actually want to see it in person because that fascinating to me. I'm like, I got to see this thing up close.
The pictures look cool.
Mm-hmm. And the videos that people take of it, but that's beside the point. We'll get to that at some other point, I'm sure. During that same era, Flavious Philostratus, who undoubtedly had one of the most fire mixtapes of all time, wrote the whole, I'm sorry, that was stupid as fuck, but it kind of makes sense at the same time, you know.
Is he related to Flava Flav?
I kind of have a picture of that, yes. But he wrote, the whole of India is girt with dragons of enormous size, for not only the marshes are full of them, but the mountains as well, and there's not a single ridge without one. Now the marsh kind are sluggish in their habits and are 30 cubits long, roughly 45 feet, and they have no crest standing up on their heads. Such accounts sprinkle the pages of history. Alexander the Great, who seems to have a lot of very wild stories about himself, isn't that interesting?
He drank a lot.
Yeah, well, there you have it. That would be hilarious if he thought he saw a dragon and he was just fighting a tree or some shit, and people are like, what's wrong with Alex? He's going to be okay.
Alex.
I know. He gets mad when people
that's
call him
hilarious
Alex.
Every time you say that.
Anyway, Alexander the Great wrote of a large serpent his army encountered during one of their conquering excursions. We'll get to that a little later. The explorer Marco Polo also described one in his logbooks, although this probably referenced gigantic snakes and not so much dragons, but they illustrate that giant reptiles once lived where they're long gone today. There's a book called After the Flood by Christian's favorite author, Bill Cooper, which describes similar accounts from Europe.
Is that the dead guy?
I honestly don't know. I'm thinking of a different Cooper.
William Cooper.
Yeah. So I don't think it's the same one. But
I think I just triggered people by saying, is that the dead guy referring to William Cooper?
Wow.
I hope so.
It's pretty messed up. Behold a pale horse, right?
He beheld him.
He beheld a little more than that, but it's fine. Cooper relayed a written report in 1484, so definitely not.
Yeah, different one.
Different Cooper, for sure.
Did you call him Bill, though?
Yeah. Well, okay, hold on. I'm getting very... Okay, no, Cooper is relaying a report that was written in 14, not him writing it, by England's first printer, William Caxton, of a singular creature. It says, about the marshes of Italy, within a meadow, was sometime a serpent of wonderful and right marvelous greatness, right hideous and fearful. For first he had a head greater than the head of a calf. Secondly, he had a neck greater than the length of an ass. I don't know if we're talking Shakira or something different, but...
These hips don't lie.
Very true. And his body made with the likeness of a dog.
Oh, dog man.
Hey, we found him. Isn't that fun? And his tail was wonderfully great, thick and long, without comparison to any other.
This guy had some weird kinks.
He had some weird descriptions, like likeness of a dog. I'm picturing a dog's body, which is just a normal animal body for the most part.
You want to picture
much
better?
Larger.
Dachshund.
Okay, I do not want to picture that. The creature thus described similarly, and he says similarly, I don't really get too much of a reference, but to the behemoth that we mentioned in the last episode, which had a tail like a cedar. That's probably the only reference that was similar.
So he was describing a snake also? You catch where I'm going with this?
That he had a likeness of a dog?
No, dragons are probably snakes.
Okay. I don't know how you get the likeness of a dog if you're a snake.
I just want to throw in snakes.
Okay, well, consider it done, You threw it in there. The same with the behemoth that had a tail like a cedar, lived in a marsh where it ate reeds, and as the first of the ways of God, was obviously quite large. People groups that did not maintain written records nevertheless retain oral traditions of dragon encounters. They describe dragons' habitats and habits and provide specific names for the dragons and the long-dead heroes who vanquished them. Towns, hillsides, and ponds across Europe still have old dragon names such as Drachenfels Castle and the town of Worms in Germany, Grindelwald in Switzerland, Dragonhoard near Garsington, plus the Peak District's Grindelford in England, and many others.
Are you going to bring up King Arthur?
No, surprisingly not. That would have been a great one to add, but this was so packed already that I'm like,
Am I remembering wrong that his family name is Dragon? Or am I thinking of a different historical figure?
The wrong person to ask about that. You're probably...
Listeners, help me figure out which historical figure's family name is basically based on an old word for dragon.
There you go. And if it's from Game of Thrones, bonus points.
I mean, we're talking real history now, not fictional.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
And also, I'm into House of Dragon. Game of Thrones kind of left me...
Bitter taste.
Yeah.
A bitter taste. Anyway, but even more evidence shows that early peoples encountered dinosaurs, carvings, sculptures, bas-reliefs, paintings, mosaics, tapestries, sculptures, pictographs, and petroglyphs all over the world depict dragons. And many of them look like specific dinosaurs. Some of the telling features that help identify these images as dinosaurian include horns, spiky skin flaps along the spine called dermal frills, long tails, long necks, large teeth, and perhaps most importantly, legs that went straight down from the body. Today's walking reptiles like crocodiles and lizards have legs that extend out from the sides of the body, then angle down to the ground at the elbows or knees.
What if it was a giant Jesus lizard?
Okay.
Have you ever seen a Jesus lizard? It's that thing that it'll get up on its hind legs and runs, and it has like a frilly thing around its face, and
it opens up,
and it'll run across
like spitting lizards or something.
I think so. They'll run across water sometimes, and that's why they call them the Jesus lizard.
That does. I was picturing something much larger.
Yeah, but could you imagine what if they evolved to be that small?
Wow, isn't that great? Devolved.
They need to put one of those in Jurassic Park as a dinosaur size, chasing a Tyrannosaurus Rex, spitting at it. That'd be hilarious.
Hey. Take notes, Dinosaur reptiles' legs extended down just as dozens of genuine ancient depictions show. Similar to what we talked about in the last week's episode pertaining to some of these etchings, evolutionists assert that such dinosaur-looking artifacts are fake.
Some of them are.
Some of them are, sure. Not every single one of them, but maybe some. However, and this is a very important detail, Christian, you can plug your ears or take off the headphones if you don't want to be triggered. It's okay. The objection doesn't result from a rigorous analysis of the data. Instead, it stems from an argument that goes something like this. Dinosaurs died millions of years before man evolved, making it impossible for ancient men to know what dinosaurs look like.
True.
Therefore, this artifact must be a fraud.
I got a different take. I am one that believes that dinosaurs went extinct approximately 65 million years ago.
You're not alone.
But we have had creatures that are maybe reptilian or amphibian that could take the place of a behemoth in a lot of or a dragon in a lot of these stories. Not necessarily a dinosaur, but a remnant left over from an ancient time that existed during the time of humans.
Now,
that might make them think that there's a behemoth or a dragon around.
Now, when you say that, is it also possible that maybe there were actually dinosaurs?
No. Because dinosaurs do not exist.
So you're saying
anymore.
Within 100% certainty, there's no way that any dinosaurs...
If you traced it back far enough, you might find that they evolved from dinosaurs because, they're reptilians or amphibians, and I'm sure you can trace back some lineage back that far if you did that for your occupation.
At that point, we're reptilians too, though, right?
I mean, there are a group of people, but that's a different show that we hope to have coming up soon.
I mean, if we walked out of the water ourselves 100 bajillion years ago or whatever.
That would be almost, to me, that seems more amphibian than reptilian.
Is there a difference at that point?
I think reptilian sounds cooler and tougher.
Yeah, so then let's say that 99 bajillion years ago, we walked out of the water as reptilians, and here we are. Science, right?
Oh, man.
Cool stuff.
So there's a couple other episodes that come within that little quote that you said, but I'm not going to go into it yet.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll get there at some point, folks, if you're still listening by the end of this. This kind of argument takes as true the very evolutionary history that the artifacts challenge. Ignoring evidence often leads to wrong conclusions, Christian. but you know that because you're all about science. So should we talk about your god, Carl Sagan?
I wouldn't call him a god because I wouldn't put anybody,
Before our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
I wouldn't put a human there.
Okay, that's fine. The late cosmologist and atheist Carl Sagan.
I do like Carl Sagan though, so don't think I'm dissing him. He's one of my favorite people, science communicators ever, because he was really good about communicating in a way that respected even religion.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what we're getting into here. The late cosmologist and atheist Carl Sagan considered the historical evidence for dragons a serious enough threat to evolutionary history that he tried to explain them in his 1977 book, The Dragons of Eden.
Did he?
Did you read that one?
No. Did he really think they were a threat, or did he just try to explain them and somebody else like, it threatens evolution? It does not threaten evolution to have dragons.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll continue.
How dare you?
Yeah.
The extraordinary Carl Sagan, who I have an altar to in my house.
I know, you're like Helga and Hey Arnold. In it, he speculated that unknown human ancestor primates may have encountered dinosaurs millions of years ago. And this is one of your favorite.
Wow, interesting.
This is one of your favorite theories that I just love to poke fun at because it's impossible and stupid, but it's fine. You think a lot of my ideas are stupid, and that's fine.
I just wouldn't say it in a public forum.
I know, but
that just shows you who
the show has spiraled out of control at this point.
We
Christian,
knew it was going to.
Yeah, at some point, this was in the cards from the very beginning. Supposedly, Sagan says the memories of those terrifying encounters so deeply traumatized those primates that they left indelible, heritable stamps in their genes.
I did not know that he talked about this. Mm-hmm. I've known about this theory for a long time, and I
thought this is where you got it from, because I've heard you talk about this yourself.
Maybe it is where I got it from. I just didn't know it came from him.
Yeah, so eons later, ancient ape-like human descendants drew dinosaur look-alike pictures from those inherited memories. But no scientific evidence. Christian's favorite buzzword.
That's a pretty far stretch for me.
It is.
I could see having the fear of, like, one of the things that I've heard, and I don't know if he said it, that's related though, is like the fear of snakes that people have, where they have basically been for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a plane.
That's a lawnmower from the sounds of it. Somewhere in Alaska. So, but no scientific evidence whatsoever suggests that memories can be genetically inherited. Knowing this, many scientists at the time shunned Sagan's unscientific speculation, but it is equally unscientific for those scientists to assert that myriad dragon legends are all fraudulent without even investigating the historical evidence.
So basically that quote is like, don't believe anything.
Pretty much. If nothing is absolutely provable, then anything's possible.
Some things are absolutely provable. But anyway, this one right here, I would say, I don't think you could draw a picture based on a memory, or a DNA memory, I should say. Yeah, you can have fears. You can have it. Your DNA can, through epigenetics, from my understanding, I could be completely wrong, but there are little changes. If you take a famine survivor that survived famine as a child, and they grow up and have babies, that baby has been proven in a lot of cases to be stronger and able to handle things like famine better than its parents or its grandparents. So there are little changes that can happen like that.
But is that technically DNA, or is that personality at that point? Like, you lived a certain way, and then your children are going to pick that up.
No, it's not the way you lived. It's your actual body has changed a little bit to handle the environment that you may or may not be born into.
Interesting.
Which is not quite evolution. It's just your body.
It's adaptation at the very least.
Right, which is kind of like evolution, but on a smaller scale that's more provable.
Micro, right?
Yeah, but it's also a newer science, so ask me in 20 years.
Well, there's people that also say that because we're all looking down at our phones or whatever, that there's starting to be like a small bone or something that is like, children born now are having something where it's like supporting the neck more because we're all looking down at our phones.
I could see that happening.
But that would be that's once again like a microevolutionary thing. And I don't think microevolution is out of the picture, because that is adapting. That's more adapting. That's not over the scale of 100 billion years or whatever. But again, I don't have literally none of the answers. Do not ask me for the answers, I don't have them.
The evolution stuff was last week's episode. I'll try to be quiet now.
Possibly. I'm not sure if there's any in this, but I don't think so. What we are going to get into now is some historical accounts, some of the legends of old. And we're actually going to finish this episode off with a couple of modern stories that I was able to track down on Reddit. I found exclusively stories where people weren't mocking them in the comments. Just kidding. That happened everywhere.
Should we wait until this guy stops? That's really loud. I can hear it.
I can hear it as well. Steve, man, you're killing me. What the hell?
I think we should wait a little bit.
Yeah. So if you all heard, what I'm sure some of you are assuming was infrasound that is outside of the realms of possibilities, so intense that it shook you to your very core, that was my neighbor mowing his lawn.
Oh, I thought he was taming a dragon.
You know, it's possible as well.
Like a donkey would.
How to train your dragon with Steve, my neighbor. Anyway, we're going to get in some historical accounts as well as a couple of interesting Reddit finds that I came across along the way. This first one we kind of mentioned earlier, Alexander the Great. Now, accounts of Alexander the Great encountering a dragon during his invasion of India in 330 BC.
At least we know he's in the right area.
There you go. That's the place. Are primarily found in ancient texts and legends rather than in historical records or first-hand reports. These accounts describe Alexander's encounter with a large serpentine creature, which had been interpreted by some as a dragon. According to these legends, as Alexander and his army advanced into the Indian subcontinent, they encountered various mythical creatures and fantastical beings. Among these encounters was the sighting of a massive serpent-like creature with scales, claws, and fiery breath, characteristics commonly associated with dragons.
Do you think it was a cobra?
Very well could have been. That'd be hilarious if they wrote the story of a gigantic creature and it was just a small cobra or something.
What if it was a big cobra? That's scary as hell.
It's even creepier, yeah. The accounts vary in detail, and they generally describe Alexander and his soldiers encountering the dragon in a remote and inhospitable region of India. Some versions of the story depict the dragon as a fierce and formidable opponent, capable of unleashing destruction with its breath or venomous bite. Despite the danger, Alexander reportedly faced the creature with courage and managed to defeat it.
Of course he did. That's why he's a hero.
Well, he's not called Alexander the Puny.
Yeah. He wasn't Alexander the Adequate.
That's right. Either through combat or by outsmarting it with clever tactics. While tales of Alexander the Great encountering a dragon in India are intriguing, they are best understood within the context of ancient mythology, rather than as literal accounts of historical events. Or were they?
Well, it sounds like a big snake. Speaking of that, have you ever seen that picture that guy took flying over somewhere in South America of that huge ass
on like
snake?
The hillside or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was massive.
That's what I picture here.
Who's to say? That brings us to the Dragon of Mokele-Mbembe.
It's not Dikembe Mutombo?
No, and it's not Harambe either, although
Hashtag
pour some
Harambe.
out for Harambe.
Yeah.
Pour some out for the homie Harambe.
You know there's a weed strain named after him.
I do know that.
He lives on.
He lives on in our hearts and in our lungs. The Dragon of Mokele-Mbembe is in the heart of the Congo Basin, deep within the dense jungles of Central Africa. It's a creature that has captured the imagination of explorers and adventurers for centuries, often referred to as the, quote, living dinosaur or African dragon. The stories of the Mokele-Mbembe date back to the early 20th century when European explorers first ventured into the remote regions of the Congo in search of unknown species and lost civilizations. According to local tribes, the Mokele-Mbembe is a massive reptilian creature with a long neck, a powerful tail, and sharp claws, resembling the prehistoric dinosaurs that once roamed the earth. One of the most famous accounts of the Mbembe comes from the expeditions of German cryptozoologist Gerhard Dahmen in the 1980s. Dahmen claimed to have encountered the creature during his explorations of the Congo River Basin. He described seeing a large dinosaur-like creature emerge from the water, its scales glistening in the sunlight as it moved gracefully through the dense vegetation. Dahmen's account sparked renewed interest in the Mokele-Mbembe, prompting further expeditions and investigations by scientists and adventurers from around the world. However, concrete evidence of the creature's existence has remained elusive, leading many skeptics to dismiss it as a myth or legend. Despite the lack of scientific proof, believers in the Mokele-Mbembe continue to search for evidence of its existence, driven by the sense of wonder and curiosity about the mysteries that still lie hidden within the depths of the Congo jungle. And so, to the legend of the Mokele-Mbembe lives on, inspiring countless tales of adventure and discovery in the heart of Africa's last great wilderness.
I'm always fascinated that cryptozoologists are so adept at not bringing back any useful information on their expeditions. It drives me crazy.
But they got some fun stories.
You got one job.
Get out there and kill this dragon, damn it.
Yeah. I mean, if that's how you convince the rest of us heathens they exist, then you got to do it, whether you're condemned or not.
That's true. You got to do it or never come back with the story because you died.
Sorry, Sasquatch.
Oh. He doesn't mean it.
I don't. Leave Sasquatch alone.
Leave Brittany alone. I like that one, though. That's probably one of my favorites from this episode is not just because Mbembe is fun to say, but because it's a fascinating story.
It is.
And that area is very dense, kind of.
I mean, normally I would go back to the snake thing, but he said claws, so I got to leave the snakes out of this one.
He's got claws on his underbelly.
Sorry, Slytherin.
Oopsie. Yeah, can't really have claws unless we're talking... No, it's fine. We'll get to that at some point in the future, I'm sure.
I mean, some dragons do have claws.
That is true.
Some have.
Especially like the Chinese ones.
Yeah. Some have 4 legs, some have 2.
Yeah, some are wyverns and some are dragons.
Yeah. I don't understand.
Wyvern.
I don't understand the stories people make up.
And I don't understand your explanations for the stories people make up, but here we are, nonetheless.
Well, you got to be on my level. When I was abducted by the aliens, they gave me in superior brain capacity. Beat it out of them. Yeah. Well, I am wrong. They didn't use beat it out.
Here we go.
They
It's going to be something about a tube.
Yeah.
Something about...
That's another episode.
Something about that alien story we covered a couple weeks ago. Now, that was dark.
Was it, though?
It was hilarious. I finished editing that episode. Very, very funny, very graphic episode. Sorry in advance for anyone we lost, but you're not listening now, are you? Anyway, the next one is the Dragon of Lake Tianchi. In the mist-shrouded mountains of northeastern China, nestled among the rugged peaks of the Changbai mountain range, lies Lake Tianchi, also known as Heaven Lake. According to local folklore, this pristine alpine lake is home to a mysterious creature, the Dragon of Lake Tianchi. Legend has it that the Dragon of Lake Tianchi is a magnificent creature with scales as blue as the deepest depths of the lake itself. Its serpentine form glides gracefully through the crystal-clear waters, its long tail behind like a shimmering ribbon in the sunlight. For centuries, the people of the region have revered the Dragon of Lake Tianchi as a divine guardian, believed to possess the power to bring prosperity and good fortune to those who pay homage to it. Pilgrims journey from far and wide to offer prayers and sacrifices at the water's edge, seeking the dragon's blessing for bountiful harvests and protection from harm. Ooh, sounds like a deity of some kind.
It would become one.
We're sacrificing to our dragon god. That was your first mistake, but it's fine. One of the most famous accounts of the Dragon of Lake Tianchi comes from the annals of Chinese history, where it is said that Emperor Qianlong of the Qing dynasty once embarked on a pilgrimage to the lake in search of enlightenment. According to court records, it's kind of funny they have court records for that, the emperor claimed to have witnessed the dragon emerging from the depths of the lake, its majestic form bathed in celestial light as it soared into the heavens. Despite skepticism of modern-day scientists and scholars, the legend of the Dragon of Lake Tianchi continues to endure, woven into the fabric of Chinese culture and folklore. Whether seen as a symbol of natural beauty, spiritual enlightenment, or mystical power, the dragon remains a timeless emblem of the enduring mysteries that lie hidden within the heart of the natural world.
I believe in the movie Shang-Chi, their dragon came from another world.
Mm.
And so maybe it's similar to teleporting Bigfoot.
Even more evidence for dragons. Shang-Chi, no doubt.
It was a fun dragon. I mean, not fun, but good depiction of a scary dragon, I guess I should say.
Yeah, got the point across.
But they had a good... Maybe I'm getting it mixed up. The dragon was on their side. I don't know what that other creature was.
The devil.
It's always the devil to Christians.
Well, then it should be the devil to you too. Got him. We got him, folks. It's fine. Let's talk Marco.
Polo.
Yep. I figured you were going to do that. I didn't write it in here, but in my heart of hearts, I knew.
Yeah.
And we pulled it off for everyone at home.
It's just instinctual.
It really is, yeah.
I evolved.
Too many days in a swimming pool as a child in California.
Yeah, proof of evolution right there.
You did it. Or a memory that works. Marco Polo wrote of a particularly monstrous dragon in one of his logs. The famed Venetian explorer recounted numerous encounters during his travels across Asia in the 13th century, but one of the most intriguing is his description of a creature he referred to as a dragon. According to Marco Polo's writings, he encountered this creature in the province of Karajan, which is modern-day Zhejiang. Hey, all of our Chinese listeners, chime in. Now's your chance to roast us alive in Mandarin. Isn't that fun? His description of the dragon is vivid and fantastical, though interpretations vary and there's debate among scholars about what exactly he encountered. Here's a detailed depiction based on what Marco Polo wrote. The dragon described was said to be an immense and fearsome creature possessing features that were both awe-inspiring and terrifying. He described it as having a serpentine body covered in scales with gleaming eyes that shone like fire. Its head was adorned with sharp horns, and its jaws were filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. Polo remarked on the dragon's ability to breathe fire, a characteristic that has become synonymous with dragon mythology. He also emphasized the colossal size of the dragon, stating that it was so immense that it could easily envelop a fully grown elephant with its coils. Isn't that interesting? Another person talking about enveloping elephants. What do these elephants do to everyone?
With coils.
With coils, no doubt, yes. This portrayal aligns with the common perception of dragons as massive, imposing creatures. The behavior of the dragon, as described by Marco Polo, was equally intimidating. He recounted tales of the dragon terrorizing villages and devouring livestock, instilling fear and panic among the local populace. According to Polo, the mere sight of the dragon was enough to send people fleeing in terror.
Well, of course, it's a dragon.
Of course. What else is it going to do?
Oh, look at the pretty dragon that's eating the elephants.
I'm reminded of that song by Flight of the Conchords, I'll Be the Racist Dragon. I'll be the racist dragon.
Is that how he sang?
I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first songs I heard. But what a great song and a great video. YouTube it right now. Oh, when you're done with the episode. I'm going to talk a little bit about Konrad Gesner. Are you familiar with him?
Did he talk? No.
He was a Swiss naturalist and physician, often referred to as the father of modern zoology. He made significant contributions to the study of animals, plants, and minerals during the Renaissance period. One of his most notable works is Historiae Animalium, which sounds like a Harry Potter spell, but it's fine. A monumental 4-volume encyclopedia that documented the known zoological knowledge of his time. In that series, Gesner endeavored to document the vast diversity of the natural world as comprehensively as possible. Among the creatures he cataloged were dragons. Dragons, while rare and elusive, are creatures that he believed to exist based on accounts from reliable sources.
But he didn't have pictures?
Well, there were no cameras in the 1500s.
That wasn't the question. No. Was the right answer. He did not have pictures.
He technically probably had cave drawings.
Which is, I'm just going to say, is similar to what we hear now. I don't have good pictures. I mean, even though we have cameras, we still don't get pictures all these years later. It's
a tale as old as time, really.
If I have to explain my joke, it's not funny.
That is true. That is very true, yes. Among the creatures, dragons, while rare and elusive, are creatures that he believed to exist based on accounts from reliable sources. Throughout history, there have been numerous reports of encounters with dragons describing them as immense serpentine creatures with wings, and some even having the ability to breathe fire. While such descriptions may seem a bit fantastical to some, he approached his study with an open mind and a willingness to consider all available evidence. In compiling the encyclopedia, he sought to provide a comprehensive overview of the known zoological knowledge of his time, drawing from a wide range of sources including ancient texts, personal and second-hand accounts. While some may dismiss the existence of dragons as purely mythical, he believed that they were real creatures that inhabited remote and unexplored regions of the world. Gesner's inclusion of dragons in Historiae Animalium reflects his commitment to documenting the natural world in all its diversity, including creatures that may be considered extraordinary or fantastical by some. As a naturalist and scholar, he thought it was his duty to explore and document the wonders of the natural world, regardless of whether they conform to conventional scientific beliefs. Which is kind of spooky.
I mean,
but good on him, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the original cryptologist.
Father of modern zoology, original cryptologist. What doesn't this guy do?
He doesn't bring evidence when it comes to cryptology like all of them.
Well, that's your opinion, Christian.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he believed in the dragon, fine, but bring us evidence, not secondhand accounts or first-hand accounts from reliable people.
Anyway, should we get into
Quetzalcoatl?
Excuse me?
There's no Quetzalcoatl?
I didn't put that one in here. No, that's Mexican, right? Or is that?
It's
Aztec?
Yeah, I believe it's Aztecs.
Oopsie. Yeah, I was considering it, but there's different reports on what the actual description was of it. So I'm like, I'm sticking to just very large serpents and dinosaur creatures.
Technically, that one's a god, isn't it? So
yes,
that one is a little above this episode.
Well,
there's no gods in this episode, not like last episode.
When you have your Lord and Savior in your heart, there's always gods in the episode, but it's fine. You have your beliefs. Let's get into some of Flavius's accounts. And this is obviously my man Philostratus. God, I hate that word so much because I just want to say Philostratus, but that's not how it's pronounced. It's like Philostratus. Flavius Philostratus, a Greek writer of the 3rd century AD, wrote about fascinating encounters with dragons in his work, The Life of Apollonius. Damn you, Greeks. The Life of Apollonius of Tiana. And yes, they're Italian now. Here are some intriguing details he shared about these creatures. He described Indian dragons as having bodies covered in gleaming, colorful scales which shimmered in the sunlight. He noted their long, serpentine forms, likening them to the giant snakes with wings. Their heads were adorned with sharp horns and crowned with majestic crests, giving them an imposing and regal appearance. According to Philostratus, Indian dragons possess extraordinary abilities beyond mere flight and fire breathing. He mentioned their proficiency in sorcery. Yes, of course, dragon magic. And their ability to communicate with humans through telepathy, which is kind of something you see in a lot of actual dragon movies and shit like that, is that like halfway through the movie, the dragon starts talking. You're like, wait, what? Hold on a second. The dragon talk now?
It sounds like Benedict Cumberbatch.
Smog.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Speaking of which, the show Eric, very good. And you should watch that.
Okay.
These mystical powers added to the allure and mystique surrounding these creatures. He portrayed Indian dragons as wise beings revered by the locals as symbols of wisdom and guardianship. He recounted stories of dragons serving as protectors of sacred sites and treasures, forming bonds with humans who showed them respect and reverence. In Indian mythology and culture, dragons held a revered place, symbolizing divine power and wisdom. Flavius's accounts reflected the deep-rooted reverence and awe that the people of India held for these mythical creatures, highlighting their significance in local folklore and religious beliefs. Some of his narratives were filled with thrilling accounts of encounters between humans and dragons, showcasing the danger associated with these creatures. He described awe-inspiring scenes of dragons soaring through the skies, their majestic forms casting shadows over the landscape. In one of his tales, Philostratus recounted an encounter between a powerful sorcerer and a cunning dragon in the remote mountains of India. The sorcerer, seeking to harness the dragon's magical abilities for his own gain, ventured deep into the dragon's lair, armed with ancient spells and incantations. However, the dragon proved to be a formidable adversary, matching the sorcerer's sorcery with its own innate powers. That dragon magic we were talking about earlier. A fierce battle ensued, with thunderous roars echoing through the mountainside as the sorcerer and the dragon clashed in a contest of wills and magic. In the end, the sorcerer was forced to retreat, humbled by the dragon's superior strength and wisdom. Like I said, there was a great deal of, and I'm skipping over some because we're kind of getting close to time, and I still want to get into the couple of modern sightings that I came across. I think there's only 2 of them. There was one. Look, I came across one story on Reddit, and look, I'm someone that wants to believe, but this guy, straight up, he was like, I've had 3 encounters with dragons in my life. That I saw a man dragon, or I guess I should say male dragon, female dragon, and a baby dragon. And he's talking like when he was 8 years old, he heard something in his backyard, and he looks out, and it's like peeking out at him from the bushes. And then like 5 years later, the same thing happened, same dragon. I'm like, did this dude just watch How to Train Your Dragon and is turning it into a, like...
He was abducted. And that's...
You think screen memories? They just put that dragon... I don't know, man. Anything's possible. But I was reading that story. I'm like, okay, even this is a bit much for me.
Even gullible Scott won't get this one.
Even gullible Scott will not put this in the episode. Classic gullible Scott. So what do you think so far?
I like dragons. If you've dated guys, you've probably had at least one snake.
Wow. I don't know where you're taking that, if it's a innuendo of some sort or if we're actually talking about
That was not
sinister
where I was
people.
going. I'm talking about Paula Abdul's song again.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take that route. No weird innuendos in this episode, folks. Yeah, so to close this out, I'll kind of give into a couple of the modern stories. These are fun ones just because I love, number one, dragon stories, but finding people that believe they saw a dragon in real life, it's almost like you hear Thunderbird stories and you're like, wow, that's pretty wild. But then dragon is like one step removed from that too, where it's like, this is even weirder than a Thunderbird. I saw a fucking dragon, dude. I
had a weird Thunderbird story the other day that I almost called you and said, Scott, go look outside. Can you see this bird I'm looking at? Because I was at work.
Oh, you saw a giant bird at work?
It was big, but I don't think it was that big. I just think it seemed like it was, because I'm watching planes go by. I'm like, that thing's as big as a plane.
Like, why is that plane flapping its wings?
Yeah, it was weird. Anyway, moving on.
Thunderbirds will come up at some point. Maybe you can put it, because there's Alaska sightings, right?
Yep.
There's some local ones that I know I've read stories out here that people have seen Thunderbirds like hiking and whatnot.
I watched one of those cringy monster reality shows where they went searching for the Thunderbird. That was actually the only decent episode out of that one. That series.
I believe it. And I have actually a hard time believing that as well. But interesting nonetheless. Yeah, we'll do an episode on Thunderbirds at some point too. All right. So this story is Dragon at Bear Lake, Idaho. That's from Hosh Tosh Magosh. It says, one year when I was about 15, I went to a scout camp at Bear Lake in Idaho. I haven't forgot about it since, and I still honestly believe I saw a dragon. The whole week we were there, it had been mostly sunny and warm, but one day it got really cloudy and stormy. It started out as a drizzle during the day, but quickly turned into a torrential downpour at night. The camping site our troop was assigned to was right on the bank of the lake, towards the south end. Anyway, I woke up in the middle of the night, it was pitch black, and the wind was howling like a chorus of upset toddlers. The reason I woke? Well, I had to pee like crazy. So we have this buddy rule that if you go anywhere, you needed to bring your assigned buddy with you, especially at night. It's not called Bear Lake for nothing. So I wake him up and tell him I need to piss. He groggily says, "Are you fucking serious?" When he sees me wriggling like a madman, he got out of his sleeping bag and grabbed his flashlight and jacket. We get our boots on and unzip the tent. Instantly, we become drenched. We start walking towards the outhouse, when about midway there, we hear this loud-ass roar. Thinking it was a bear, we started to panic. We turned around but couldn't see anything with our flashlights. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminates the sky and we see this creature with a massive wingspan, a long neck, and spiked tail. As it flew over us, we could see the silhouette of it. Its wings in a downbeat as it passes. The air from the downbeat literally pushed us into the mud. Terrified, we run back to the tent and hide. Needless to say, I completely forgot about needing to pee until the next morning. To this day, me and my friends still talk about what we saw, and we both agree that was a dragon.
Now, as you're reading that, I'm like, let me see about this Bear Lake. And
they have a dragon, turns out.
Not really a dragon, but we're in the same vicinity. This is from the 1870s. During the remaining years of the century, especially from 1868 to 1875, such prominent fixtures of literature as John Coulter's Hell.
Sounds like a great read.
The explosive Mike Bink, half man, half alligator. So basically, there's a monster in that lake that's supposed to be half man, half alligator.
Creepy.
So obviously,
maybe it wasn't a dragon. Maybe it was a half man, half alligator.
And they're mentioning it in the 1870s. So
interesting.
Fascinating little connection there.
There you go. Good.
Not necessarily a dragon, but there is a monster there.
Yeah. The fact that the wind from this thing flapping its wings above their head or whatever knocks them into the mud. That's some pretty intense wind.
That sounds Thunderbirdy.
A little bit, yeah. That would be like, number one, a sight to behold. Is just a crack of lightning lighting up the sky and you're seeing this silhouette of a dragon. You're like, what the actual fuck? God, why don't we ever see the cool stuff, Christian?
It's not real.
Oh, well, I guess that explains it then. We'll see it right back here. No. I have another nice little short one, your favorite. And this, I believe, happened in... Oh, no, I have two. I have two nice little short ones.
We just talked about this.
We did.
It evolved.
This is called Red Dragon in the Sky, and it's by Live in Harmony, One Love. One morning around 5:45 a.m., I woke up from sleeping. My boyfriend and I lived together, and he was asleep next to me. My window's blinds were slightly open and I could see the very early morning sky. As I recall, the sky was gray and cloudy, but still bright, as if it had rained during the night, but I'm not sure about the rain, and it was right before sunrise. What a weird detail. I'm not sure if it actually rained, but it looked like it might have.
All of a sudden, just the wording was like, California dreaming.
I'm not sure why I woke up. Well, because that's how it works. No, I'm not sure why I woke up that morning at that time, but when I did, I saw my cat perched on our bookshelf, peering out the same window. I saw her looking up and wondered what she was looking at. So I looked in the same direction and I saw a dragon fly by.
A dragonfly?
Yeah, a dragonfly. I said, hey, that's completely normal. I'm not freaked out about this. No, a dragon fly by. I was completely shocked and in awe. Watch out, George Bush. I had never seen anything like that before in my life, and I knew many people hadn't either, if anyone else at all, other than my cat and I. The dragon was red, had a long tail and wings. It flew by very fast and was up in the sky. I was shocked by this experience. I did a drawing of it with pastels to better explain what I saw to my boyfriend who was asleep. And that's literally the end of the story. I think that might have been a comment on something. That would be kind of fascinating.
I'm not convinced on that one.
You think she just made that shit up? She's like karma mining.
Yeah.
Like, hey, somebody upvote this. I saw a dragon, damn it. I mean, who's to say? Honestly, one of my big indicators my entire life has been if my cat sees it and I see it, it's real. You know? And this woman's cat looking at it, and then she looks at it, what the fuck?
Do you ever think, what if you ever come to think, or I don't even know how to talk right now. Do you ever think that maybe cats make us see shit? Like, it's not really there. They're like, watch what I do to this human. This monkey, I'm going to make it see something.
I'm so glad you asked. I never thought that.
Another episode. Anyway.
Another episode for sure. I'll close it out with this one, and then we can kind of wrap it up. I don't know about you. I'm starting to sound gravelly and old. And it's because, okay, my day when I was at work, I went to therapy, talked for an hour. I came home, put my son to bed, talked for an hour and a half, and now I'm talking for another hour. It's like practically a fucking TED Talk at this point, and one of the best TED Talks you ever heard, with learning probably the least amount you've ever experienced, but that's fine.
TED Talks for the evangelical church, at least last week's episode.
There you go. Well, I can talk about God in this one too, if you'd like. This is from Rebecca Deer. Rebecca Deer.
She have horns? Because then she's a goddess.
Okay.
Celtic goddess.
Alrighty then. A few years ago when I was living in Lincolnshire, UK.
See?
It was large and black. I probably shouldn't have paused right there. But, I forgot the first part of that. That's probably a little more helpful. I saw a dragon a few years ago when I was living in Lincolnshire, UK. It was large and black and flew over me as I was driving down the road.
The Black Dread. We talked about this
already. There you go. You called it. It headed over the nearby wood where I lost sight of it. It would have been the size of around 3 cars, I would say. Instantly knew it wasn't a bird by the way its wings moved and had a very long, pointed tail. No, I don't use drugs, and no, I'm not crazy. It's amazing how closed off people's minds are to this sort of thing. We live life with a human body and human eyes. We don't see all that is around us. We walk around with a filter on, and sometimes I think we are allowed to see what's really out there.
That was a good point there.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that.
That we did.
We do have filters. Unfortunately, mine is not a paranormal filter, so I don't get to see fun things.
Yeah.
Or shadow people.
Shadow people.
Or like a body in a pillowcase. I've never seen any of that.
There's still time, Christian. You're still breathing. And if you're open to these things, you just might find...
I need Google to come out with the right filter for my glasses so I can see this stuff.
There you go. Yeah, that would be something to see for sure. I hope that we do this show long enough that you have some absolutely wild experiences in your adult life that you're like, Scott, I have no explanation for this, but we need to record right now.
But I don't want to become an adult.
Yeah, well, it happens. It comes for all of us at some point.
I've heard bad stories about adulting. I don't think I want to do it.
Definitely not fun. My experience so far has been pretty bleak, and that's fine. You know?
Just wait till you have a grandchild.
I do have a grandchild. Yeah, so anyway, dragons are real. Right?
In just myth. They're real myths.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
If you were going to get me on board on any kind of dragon, the Chinese dragons probably would not be it, even though I want to see the Chinese dragon when the people are doing them, because those are so cool.
Yeah, but like anatomically, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's just that one is definitely mythic, especially when you see some of their other mythic creatures. Yeah. You're like, they are The Chinese have some cool mythic creatures.
Yeah, there was the story that I left out, the Long Wang. That's definitely not a soundbite.
That's a different kind of dragon.
That is a different kind of dragon. That one spoke of, or maybe I'm thinking Huangdi.
Still could be related to the certain type of dragon.
Sure, but it was a story of like dragons of the sea, like different sea dragons and stuff like that, in each of the coasts or each of the waters. And maybe we'll get to that. Maybe we'll do like a bonus story or something like that and touch on a few more of these. But for the time being, I was really just bouncing around a lot of the different stories that I had compiled, knowing full well that it was too long for an episode. And yet here we are, you know? But it's fine. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think there's enough, like, even like you look at the old school, like petroglyphs, and it just makes sense that dragons are real.
I think there's something out there that we call dragons at some point.
Even a flying dinosaur.
Yeah, but dinosaurs and dragons didn't exist at the same time. We've already established that last week and this week.
I think we established that they absolutely coexisted.
What did we establish, our dear listeners?
Yeah.
Sorry to call you dear listeners. I always hate when other people
We know
do
they're
that.
humans, our dear listeners. Yeah, and just remember, folks, to be kind in the comment section, okay? Even if someone says something that you don't necessarily believe in, you don't have to be an asshole. Because if you're an asshole, guess what? I am the master of being an asshole to people. I can just rip you a new one like you've never experienced in your life. And I don't like doing that. So be nice to everyone, regardless of their beliefs. And I will do the same.
Unless you believe in the spaghetti god, rip them to shreds. And then,
No, even then.
well, I mean, it is spaghetti. So just have dinner while you listen to their missionaries.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I really don't know how to end this. I'm so exhausted at this point. I still have to go inside and give my son a bath.
I'm hungry.
I'm starving as well. Yeah, talking does that.
The spaghetti thing just pushed me over the edge.
God damn it, now I gotta go get some Italian.
Now I'm going to have
That's fine.
tacos. I have taco leftovers at home.
Talking about spaghetti, on your way to eat taco leftovers. Beautiful.
I can't do the pasta that much anymore. Trying to get in shape.
Gotta get that carbo load, man. Carbo load with that pasta.
I'm not that active.
Yeah, that makes two of us. And that's fine. Folks, let me know in the comments below. What was your favorite story? What do you think about the Reddit stories? Those are always fascinating. Do you think it's just karma mining? Bear Lake one is probably my favorite of those, just because that paints such a nice picture in my mind that I can literally visualize it.
Well, and there's a corresponding legend behind that lake too,
True.
which
And
always
actually,
makes it fun.
one that I didn't put in the episode that I should have, but it's because we covered already, was the lake monster from that lake in California we did.
Tahoe?
No, the
Lake Elizabeth?
yeah, like that article from the Tombstone or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So I saw that. I was like, oh, this is fast. And I was like, oh, we already talked about that.
Yeah.
So anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in yet again. And next week, we'll be right back to our regularly scheduled programming. Now that we got the dinosaurs and dragons talk out of the way, what do you think? What are your thoughts? You know the drill. We'll see you right back here before my voice gives out. Goodbye.